what are the options that you're giving to government and if they're willing to accept them?
Well, I think I'd like to simply quote from what a colleague of mine, the Honorable Okojitwa Blakwa, said yesterday about the E-levy. When you look at all your headlines today and see the figures in terms of government's own expenditure, when you look at the level of waste in our system, when you observe the wanton dissipation of state funds and the lack of transparency or accountability, you ask yourself, what is 6.9 billion going to be accrued from the E-levy going to do for us as a people?
Wouldn't that be a stepping stone?
The Auditor General has given us a very clear indication that at least 12 billion has been lost by state institutions. Half of that is what we are clamoring for to earn from the E-levy. What is that going to change? When you look at how much we have borrowed since inception of this government, 6 years down the line, 344 billion. And currently our debt to GDP stands at almost 80-something plus. That is our deficit in terms of our outlook and the risk associated with our borrowing. How is 6.9 billion going to offset the interest on all these amounts? I think that it is almost child's play for anybody to deceive themselves that the 6.9 billion that will be collected eventually from the E-levy would be in any case anybody's salve for the challenges that we are currently faced with. I have no doubt in my mind that if government really wants to change track and reposition itself, then we should go back to the conversations for which Ghanaians, maybe not necessarily I as an individual, went out there to vote for President Akufo-Addo and his running mate, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
The sitting government they have said that the state-owned enterprises, the monies that have been we're accounting that as a loss. It's not starting today. It's as a result of it's a ripple effect of past and previous governments. The wastage didn't start today, and so even if they wanted to focus on that and want to collect monies and sanctions maybe MDs or even these state enterprises, it will take a long while. But they say the country needs funds to run, immediate funds, and they do not want to run to the IMF. And so what will be the NDC's position on that? They agree and they accept that, yes, the state-owned enterprises have accounted for major and huge losses. But they are also saying that they need money in hand, cash in hand, immediately for some of the projects that they want to do. I mean, for the electricity and water that we enjoyed during the COVID time, we're told we have to pay for. The country is nearly broke.
Have you seen the humongous amount that was spent on COVID-19? 662.5 million Ghana cedis. Divided by 2, our population is just a little above 30 million. And that is of the recent population census. Divide this by those households. Find out how much each household can get from this amount of money. Do you honestly believe that whatever you received from the state would actually meet this figure? Do you believe that by any standard, any stretch of the imagination? Look, this is a government that promised to protect the public purse, right? Mm-hmm. This is a government that promised that the money was right here and that we'll be able to recover it. This is a government that told us that if the dollar was even rising, at the time when we left office, the dollar was under 4 Ghana cedis to a dollar. Today, it is actually 6.9 and counting. Why do we hold so much grief for them? And so now when the media asks me these questions on your platforms, I ask myself, why are you not asking them?
Well, we actually extended them.
I listened to a service yesterday where a very eminent man of God recounted how persons were put in little tiny spaces at the peak of the COVID pandemic and were given 10 cities to return to their places of abode because of the pandemic. Compare that to the figure that they're giving us being spent. Have you seen the other reports from the Auditor General about COVID expenditure? That they even spent as much as 32 million Ghana cedis on COVID meetings alone. Another 100 million was expended on Veronica buckets, on reusable masks, and on all hand sanitizers, etc. Think about those figures. You listen to the IMF representative, or was it the World Bank?
The World Bank.
The World Bank come out in defense of the monies they are giving this government. $430 million. Can you imagine what that amount looks like?
And so again, no e-levy at all.
But what do you need e-levy for?
And again,
there was $250 million in the legacy or heritage account. It was expended also on COVID. Add that to the amount that was received from the World Bank, from the IMF, and from all the other institutions that offered monies to this government. You know, I think it's time for all of us to start demanding as forcefully as we can for government to account us. You recall after the initial Eurobond market that when we returned it, the Honorable Ken Oforiatta actually hosted a Kinke and Wache party at the ministry to literally taunt and provoke the opposition. These are people who actually claimed to be paragons of democracy.